WDHN News, your local election headquarters.
Good morning, I'm Tanya Pruitt. Happy Wednesday to you. I'm joined now by Ben Stanfield and Mike Gerspan, and thank y'all so much for being here this morning and helping us cover our election results. And let's just go ahead and dive into the numbers.
Yeah, and an interesting Tuesday night for the elections. Really a Republican mandate last night in so many races, except for Henry County. And Mike, we talked about this last night, where Henry County votes for the candidate, not the party.
Right, apparently so, because really Henry County across the entire Wiregrass as well as Northwest Florida voted for two Democrats, and obviously two popular Democrats, one as state representative and the other as a sheriff. You know, Walt Maddox getting his fourth term.
All right, so let's look at the numbers though. Kay Ivey galloping really to victory. 60-40 was the predicted percentages in a lot of these races. Kay Ivey with a big win last night. Walt Maddox, though, in his support behind Kay Ivey in his concession speech last night. I was looking for the word there. We've been working for a long time. So nonetheless, so that race comes to a close. A lot of folks thought it might be a little tighter than that, but Kay Ivey, very popular figure in the state of Alabama.
And of course, you know, she helped clear up that Bentley, as she described in her commercial, the Bentley mess.
The mess. It was a mess. We covered it from start to finish. And the lieutenant governor's race, and let's just kind of race through a couple of these numbers here. Will Ainsworth with a big victory, and as expected. In the attorney general's race, Joseph Siegelman put up a valiant fight. He visited with us a lot of times. Tanya, you got to talk with him. He didn't pull off the upset, but a young guy, he's 31.
Very impressive for his age, for sure.
And so the son of former Governor Don Siegelman, and so we appreciate him stopping in to talk with us. Hopefully we'll get Steve Marshall for you down the road. In the U.S. House District 2, Martha Roby with a big victory there. Tabitha Eisner visited with us a number of times too, as well as Martha Roby just the other day. And
Eisner did put up quite a fight.
Yeah.
She did,
and spent a lot of money, in fact, with various media in this area, but it wasn't enough.
Well, you recall 2 years ago, Nathan Mathis spent almost no money and put up a big fight in that race as well. And so the Democrats gaining ground in these races ever so slightly. Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice, this going to Tom Parker here, who is very similar in fashion to Roy Moore. Alabama Supreme Court place 4. Jay Mitchell with the Republican win there. Republicans controlling all of the statewide offices. Secretary of State, that goes to John Merrill last night in that 60-40 framework there. State Auditor Jim Ziegler wins again in that race as well. In the Alabama State House races, there's a Ziegler victory. Let's talk about Dexter Grinsley now. He's the Democrat. Okay. The whole. Yep.
Fun times. How did it go to black? Or why? We don't know. Okay.
WDHN News, your local election headquarters.
And good morning, I'm Tanya Pruitt. Thanks for choosing to wake up with us this morning. I'm joined by Ben Stanfield, of course, our news director, and Mike Gerspan. And thank y'all both for being here this morning and help us cover our election results. And let's just go ahead and dive in.
Yeah, it was a Republican mandate again. Really through the state of Alabama. On the national level, it looks like the House of Representatives will go to the Democratic Party, switching over there, but the Senate retained by the Republicans.
You know, the GOP looks strong in a lot of races where they were predicted, like, for instance, Ted Cruz in Texas. He has won re-election, but according to recent polls, he was going to lose.
Yeah, and that was an interesting race in that direction as well. In the state of Alabama, Kay Ivey did not keep it interesting last night. I think the race was called roughly 8:55. I don't even think
early on.
It didn't make it at 9 o'clock, which is usually you're 930, 940 in a contested race. And Walt Maddox put up a great campaign through his support behind Kay Ivey. Very classy in his concession speech last night. But there you go, 61 to 39. Mike, we talked about this last night. Those are the numbers to pay attention to. 60-40.
Just about every state race, you see that same break, maybe a point or two either way. But as far as the Republicans defeating the Democratic candidate, 60-40, just about every time.
so take a look at these races as we move through them, and we're going to power through a bunch of them here. Lieutenant Governor, let's start there. 60-40, anyone? 62-38, right? So Will Ainsworth with the victory there. Let's move to Attorney General now. Joseph Siegelman, 40% of the vote from the Democratic side. He visited with us a lot. Tanya, what are your takeaways of Joseph Siegelman through this campaign?
Well, he was a very impressive man. He's younger, I think, what,
31, I think, somewhere in that ballpark, yeah.
And I think he had a strong campaign despite his loss, so, yeah.
He's got a bright future.
Yeah, we'll be seeing his name appear several times in the future, maybe even in the footsteps of his dad.
Maybe so. And all right, so let's go to the U.S. House District 2. Martha Roby wins re-election, 62 to 38%. Another Democratic challenger here who put up a great campaign, Tabitha Eisner, with some pretty big numbers in that race as well.
They both visited us.
Yeah, it certainly did, and got a chance to talk with you, News 18 viewers. We're a stop on the political map here at Channel 18, and so these candidates want to get in here and talk to you at home, and so we were glad to do that. Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice Tom Parker, who's somewhat of a Roy Moore style on the bench. He wins in that 60-40 frame there as well. Supreme Court place 4. This was on the ballots in the Wiregrass. Jay Mitchell takes the victory in that race. So we're going to cruise on through a couple more here. Alabama Secretary of State, that goes to John Merrill in the 60-40 range. State Auditor Jim Ziegler. And there we go again. The number's almost the same. Alabama State House District 85, Dexter Grimsley, the Democrat, 54 to 46% over Ron Wilson, the Republican from Dothan. Dexter up in Henry County. And Mike,
I've seen him in person. He is tall.
How tall is he?
He's a giant.
He is certainly a tall man. And let me tell you, his presence in this area is even bigger.
Right.
And boy, he's been elected a couple of times now. Right. And Mike, just interesting to watch Henry County on election day.
I know, as we were talking about last night, in fact, Henry County is an anomaly because it's about the only county within the Wiregrass that keeps on voting Democratic.
Certainly
and I know that people are voting probably for the candidate, him or herself, but still, it makes a big difference.
It certainly does. Let's go back to the races now. Alabama State House District 86. This is stuff that was on the ballot. Paul Lee had a very successful night. He's going back to Montgomery. In District 89, this is one we thought could get close. Joel Lee Williams, I actually know both of these guys pretty well. West Allen, the probate judge in Pike County, made a lot of headlines. He quit doing marriage licenses once the laws of the state and the nation changed to allow same-sex marriage. He said, we're out of that business now. And he's been a popular figure in that area for a long time. This encompasses just a northern sliver of Dale County, too. The Skipperville area is in this district. And Joel Lee Williams, a popular attorney in the area, put up a good fight from that Democrat side of the ballot. Let's look at the state amendments now. This allows the 10 commandments to be posted in public places, 72 to 28%. Where it is constitutional. That was kind of the catch with this one, but that passes nonetheless. The amendments had a good night as well. So the amendment number 2, right to life, 59% there in favor. And really, I mean, this honestly, the ballots look like straight ticket voting to me, except you don't vote straight ticket on the amendments, but they were almost set up that way that Democrat voters would go one way, Republicans another. This is to revise some things on the University of Alabama board. Really didn't appeal to a lot of folks, but a lot of folks voted on it nonetheless. Over 1 million people, and so that one passed as well. And then to sustain legislative vacancy, I'm going to call this the Luther Strange referendum here, because what would happen there, Luther Strange was sent to Washington under the Bentley administration in really one of the most corrupt times of Alabama's history, and a lot of people think there were some backroom dealings there that got Luther to the Senate seat in D.C. that Doug Jones later took over. So what this does is, if that happens again, the seat remains vacant. Right. And so if you're past October of the 3rd year of the term, then it would no longer than 13 months would that seat remain vacant. But nonetheless, that's how that would shake out. In the state of Florida, boy, a wild one down there, Mike. Ron DeSantis had a good night on the Republican ticket, and that race was called just before we went off the air last night.
Right, by ABC News, I think the Associated Press as well. A lot of mudslinging, very dirty campaign. And DeSantis, there was accusations of racism on his part, and then for Gillum, of course, the Tallahassee mayor, there's supposedly a federal investigation on some misdeeds or alleged misdeeds that he may have done.
Yeah.
So, but as you say, it was very tight, but it has been called, for the Republican.
Let's skip down to this is race number 23 on our list here. I'll give you a little back channel of our planning here. But let's go to the U.S. Senate race from the state of Florida as well. The latest numbers we have, Rick Scott at 50-50 with Bill Nelson. And boy, Bill Nelson's been around forever. Rick Scott,
former astronaut.
Yeah, and so he's a tough guy to knock off in the political arena in the state of Florida, but still kind of sorting this one out.
Well, the interesting thing here is, and I think Scott will win it because the final votes to be counted are in Northwest Florida, of course, in the Central Time Zone.
A lot of places in Florida still don't have the internet.
Right.
So are we driving these votes down I-10? Is that, I mean, what happens?
Well, of course, when President Trump won, the Panhandle gave him the victory because he was losing by about 1 million votes before the Central Time votes were counted in Northwest Florida. So it's kind of a similar situation, for I call him Governor Scott and soon to be probably Senate-elect Rick Scott.
Interesting race there. All right, so a couple of local things on the ballot that we covered in depth, and let's just show you some of those races. Sheriff Will Maddox had a great night in Henry County, 59% to 40%. Henry County voted for that candidate, not necessarily the party, because I think if you really polled Henry County, there's a lot of Republicans in the area, but nonetheless, the Democrats, Dexter Grimsley and Will Maddox, had a good night. Let's go ahead and roll through the next couple of races here in this one. In Georgia's governor race, Brian Kemp with the victory there, and this is another one that got very nasty down the stretch.
And a lot of attention. I know that Obama came and Oprah to support Abrams, so yeah.
But the thing is, it was predicted to be 2 or 3 point separation, but Secretary of State Kemp won by a sizable margin.
Certainly did. The polls have become less and less and less reliable as things have moved on. All right, let's go through a couple more here, and we'll just kind of take the lead from upstairs. Slocum Fire District tax passes 74 to 26%. One thing we talked about last night. Let's go ahead and show that Sunday alcohol referendum from Dale County.
Got passed too, didn't it?
As well as 65 to 35%, really a 2-to-1 vote. And then another one here, car tags. They're going to add a $5 fee on Act 239 there in Dale County to help first responders, 64 to 44% there. So in these two races here, the fire tax and the car tags, Tanya, you've lived in Dale County a long time.
I did.
And so there's a lot of rural areas, and folks want to enhance fire departments there, and saying the same thing in Slocum. Safety was a big deal in this race.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a big thing for a lot of Dale County people, and I think it's a minimal fee. I think it's worth it to improve. Absolutely.
And that was kind of the vibe there too. And one thing we talked about, for instance, like that $35 fee in Geneva County, where the Slocum Fire District will raise the property taxes for businesses and homes. For instance, we talked about if that knocks $10 off of your homeowner's insurance, because these insurance safety ratings will go up as a result. And so you come out ahead. I mean, if you're paying $35 more in property taxes, but you're going to save, maybe $100 a year on homeowners insurance.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it certainly is. So in the grand scheme of things, you're coming out
And that's
ahead.
just the fire district. It's not Geneva County as a whole, but just basically stretches from the Houston County line to the Florida state line.
Yeah.
So it's
that County Road 49 corridor.
That area along Highway 4 and everything like that.
And that's a busy area too, and
growing area.
A lot of traffic through that area as well. Mike, do you have a takeaway from last night's numbers?
Well,
a final thought of sorts.
Ben, as you were saying, a 60-40 split where the GOP is leading the Democrats, at least in the Wiregrass as well as statewide, but the pendulum is moving back. The numbers are not as severe as they were, say, several years ago. In other words, the margin is starting to close. Maybe we're getting back to a two-party system in the state.
Maybe so. You know, a state that sent Doug Jones to Congress just a little over a year ago. So that's where things stand. 60-40 is not 50-50, but it's closer than it used to be.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
There's my final thought for the morning.
My final thought is, did I hear somewhere that there's more women and more people generally in our area that's getting out and voting this time?
You know, it's going to take us a little bit of time to break down the statistics, but I think you're right, though. The record turnout for last night, and you know, that's some of the coverage plans that we'll have in the days ahead, is breaking down these numbers as well.
All right. Well, thanks so much, guys, and stay with us. We'll be right back.